All right, and we get straight to it. Allow me to introduce my guests this evening. Right next to me, Dr. John Mutunga, Mheshimiwa Member of Parliament of Tigania West. Thank you so much for creating a time. You've come all the way from Tigania. You'll tell us what the mountain feels like, because Tigania is largely part of the mountain, right? And therefore, we want to hear whether the people of Tigania are happy as to the visit by the President. And right next to you is Professor Macharia Munene. Professor Macharia Munene is a political historian as well as a professor of history and international relations. Thank you so much for creating time, Prof, as well as Ngogoyo Onesimus, Member of Parliament, Kajiado North. Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for creating time. When we're talking about Kajiado, we know that pretty much a neighbor of the mountain in huge ways and in other quarters, and therefore we need to understand what you make of the visit. But Prof, you have seen that story that we have carried, perhaps highlighting the concerns that we really need to be keen on as to the animosity that exists between the refugees as well as, you know, the host communities in Turkana around Dadaab. What do you make of it, and what needs to be done to ensure that then we're able to quell this?
Well, it's a dangerous situation, but it is not new.
Okay.
We have had it for a long time.
Is it by design?
Sometimes it appears to be.
Because if you're not going to address the concerns of the locals.
Because there was a time, I think, when Raphael Tuju was the minister. Remember, he told these donors, the international, if you are so concerned about them, take them to your place, into Europe and America. And because they were saying you should return some of these people. So it is a tricky situation. Refugees, by their very nature, need help.
Right.
Because they are running away from very awkward situations. And where they run to is the place that is assumed to be stable, peaceful, and able to take care of them. And for a long time, Kenya has been the place of refuge in the neighborhood, not just the Kakuma area. And so we've had South Sudanese, we have Ugandans, we had Somalis, we have Ethiopians, and occasionally some Tanzanians, but not as many. So it is a very tricky situation. So when the capacity of the host country is stretched, then of course the refugees get to feel it.
That's true.
And because now the government is duty bound to look after its people.
Wow.
But once the refugees come and you receive visitors who are in distress, you don't kick them out.
Okay.
You share the little that you have.
All right.
But the assumption has been that refugees is not a problem of the host country alone. It's an international issue.
Okay. As we sum it up, well, of course, that is quite interesting. One of the reasons why we're told that we need a peaceful nation is because of such occurrences. And I mean, we're constantly reminded that even as we play our politics, that we must make sure that we play it wise. What we have witnessed today in Kasarani, Honorable Ngogoyo, is one thing, that of course Goons appeared to want to disrupt the church service where the former deputy president was attending. And according to his allies, this is something that has been orchestrated perhaps by officials in government, of course, to counter the moves of Refugee, not just in the city, but across the country. And after that, of course, he has well castigated it and proceeded to the parts of the mountains, something that has been seen as a counter visit after the president was there. What do you make of the situation that is playing out? And of course, after, that visit by the president that is, on this mountainside?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my first time on the show.
Thank you.
And I appreciate just to bring you to speed on the issue that you talked about with Munene.
Right.
There are three ways of settling down refugees. One, you can repatriate them, you can integrate them, and resettle them. The governments need to know that you must not bring them in the country that they are now.
Okay.
To your issue for today.
Right.
What we have witnessed in Kasarani is one of the many incidences that we have seen the government sponsor violence. Government of Kenya, led by President William Ruto, sponsoring violence.
And you're convinced that that is the case?
I'm not convinced. I am sure it is the government of Kenya that is sponsoring violence.
Evidence-based?
Yes, evidence-based, because one, They did not. They recalled all the police officers who were there in the morning.
Okay.
No single uniformed, non-uniformed police officer who was at that residence. I happened to have accompanied the deputy president one time at a burial in Limuru. My car was attacked. I was attacked. We reported it to the Limuru Officer Commanding Police Division. Up to date, the DCI, the police have done nothing.
Right.
The IG, I'm told by a phone call yesterday, made sure that there was no police at the place where this function was supposed to happen. If not for anything, there was a church fundraiser for the security of people. One of the roles that government has is to protect people, life and people.
Okay.
They did not put any police officer. It is only the private security that the deputy president has that was able to repel, together with church members. You would see them carrying stuff that are building the house there. And it's very unfortunate. This is state-sponsored violence.
Why would it be, targeting the deputy president who is...
They are all attempts to make sure that Rigathi Gachagua does not have meetings or inroads across the country.
Okay.
There is a general
But we've been seeing him do that, for the better part of the time right after his impeachment. Can we really confidently argue that way?
We can argue that way because, remember, he does not have any police officer by government. He is protected by his own private means.
Right.
This is somebody who was deprived of security. Remember, there are norms that have been there. Whenever you serve in certain offices, I serve in a constituency where the late Professor George Saitoti was the vice president. Up to date, his home is still guarded by police officers, courtesy of an office that he held in his home in Kitengela, in his home in Kiserian, his mother's house, up to date. There is still some form of protection because he served as a vice president.
And Kenyans would be curious to understand, and perhaps that would come to Professor, what form of security is Refugee entitled to, knowing the way he was the manner in which he left office? Because then we're talking about perhaps vice presidents who have exited the office, in the right manner. Of course, maybe the terms end. Perhaps, of course, is that change of by choice by the previous president or the presidents. But now we're talking about a deputy president who's been ousted, who's been taken out of office through impeachment. Does he deserve, of course, or does the Constitution dictate that as well? He should enjoy this kind of security.
I think once somebody is impeached, he loses a lot of things. And so I'm not sure he's entitled to if he's properly impeached.
Right.
The problem with Refugee, there are issues as to whether it was done properly. It was a political move, and everyone could see that.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why his popularity has gone up, because there is a perception that he was wrongfully removed. And there is a lot of information, some people admitting that they were ordered to do it. I think it was Bosholai who said, he orders us to do this. And
right.
So there is question as to whether it was properly done. And since the matter is still in court, to decide whether it was properly done.
Or not.
If the court says that it was properly done, then his fate is not very nice.
Okay.
But if the court decides that it was improper, it's not that, it will not mean that he'll get the job back.
Okay.
But at least his name will be cleared a bit. And I think that's what he wants, to have his name cleared.
Okay.
And then he might be able to enjoy the
benefits.
The benefits
that come along with having held that office at some point. All right, interesting. Gladys Bose-Shulei said that it was an order, but the boss himself the other day, speaking to journalists from Mount Kenya, the Mount Kenya stations, argues that at least he tried to, talk to the members of parliament, tell them, please do not take him out, but of course they could not listen. And I mean, it begs the question, just who is speaking the truth? Was it politically instigated or not? We'll be coming to that. But then again, what do you make of this, Mheshimiwa? The economic advisor to the president, Moses Kuria, on his socials says this is utterly ungodly. Leave your backward and primitive political wars out of places of worship. Today was AIPCA kernel reloaded. The lightning that will strike us is still loading. Pole sana Rigathi. You see a lot of irony in his statement, but perhaps he has a point. That maybe if these politicians were just going to do the business of the church in politics, maybe you would not get to witness such attacks. But it is almost certain that any time a politician hits the podium, their business is politics, whether it is in burials, whether it is in church and all that.
Thank you very much. Let me say that it is not any politician hitting the podium that simultaneously results into politics. I don't think that is the case. However, in this particular incident, there are several factors that probably we need to consider. Did the church make arrangements for security?
For security, okay.
Because it is obvious that if you have a function, you approach the security apparatus near you and you seek for protection.
Right.
That happens. If the church sought for protection, was the security of the sought by the church removed? Were they denied that kind of protection? That's the first thing. The second thing is, now, we are saying that the matter is still in court, yes. But I don't know the extent to which the Honorable Gachagua is entitled to state security. I really do not know the extent. I need to check that bit. But should the court uphold the decision of the parliament, then Honorable Gachagua cannot be even elected into any office for the next 10 years. That's the constitution. So it means, therefore, he has to even prepare himself to take care of himself. Okay. That's the first and foremost. Secondly, it is very wrong to just conclude that it is state-sponsored, hooliganism or who saw them? Where was the planning done? Who sponsored? How was the sponsorship done? I think sometimes we get a bit careless with.
Shimiwa says it's evidence-based.
We would like to see that. Maybe we would like to discuss that evidence.
Substantiate.
On the authenticity of the evidence itself, the extent to which we know state. Because if there has been incidences where probably Mheshimiwa has had, he's been attacked, if that is the case, then we need to ask ourselves who attacked him and how was the attack orchestrated, how was it planned. Knowing Gachagua, the person he is, and I want to support what the president said the other day. It is us, members of parliament, who actually requested to impeach Gachagua. Okay. It is not the president. The president.
So you confirm what the president said?
I completely found that, and one of Tongoro is aware of that.
Okay.
We asked in many meetings, can we be allowed to impeach this man? Because if we did not impeach Gachagua, he would have impeached all of us.
And he tried to convince you otherwise?
He was not in talking terms with many of us. He had already done away with us.
Okay.
He would come to your backyard and he would dwell on doing away with you, killing you politically.
Okay.
Of course, we know we have problems in this country. If somebody stands at the podium and says, okay, your member of parliament is not here, you see, he doesn't even come to talk to me, to support him in getting your roads done, getting your people get water, electricity and all that. So does that member of parliament go back to the community? No. Completely cut off from the community.
Okay.
So that is Gachagua. People don't know who Gachagua is. That's where it started, the boiled out from. And then being very trivial and specific on small issues, attacking people, calling them names, it was not necessary. Then we say, this deputy president, who is the symbol of unity in support to the presidency, is behaving this way.
Would it be wrong to argue that
for 5 years, the remaining 4 years, with him as the deputy president and survive as politicians?
So the grounds of impeachment, if we're going to go back to that, I mean, I do not remember this being mentioned as a ground of impeachment.
Of course it was.
But of course, this was raised as concern. Would we say then that, of course, having felt like, agitated at some point, members of parliament decided that hook or crook, they're going to find fault with the former deputy president so that he's impeached?
The Honorable Gachagua was not willing to mend fences with anyone.
If he did?
He just believed in being the one who contributed 47% of the government. And that was his negotiation too. to benefit his own self, not benefit even the people. So those are the issues that we are dealing with. So if somebody can go to such an extent, it is even possible for such a person to plan for his own attack. We should not. I mean, we know.
Mheshimiwa here speaks of his car, and we witnessed what happened then, and it was quite unfortunate to have witnessed that. Why would someone, launch such an attack, or perhaps, plan such an attack?
I'm telling you, we cannot rule out that particular fact, knowing who Gachagua is. All right,
Mheshimiwa, we come back to you. I mean, he who alleges must. You know what the mantra is.
Yes. I want to take you back. I gave you an incident in Limuru. The Deputy President and I and a number of other members of Parliament were attacked. I have an OB number. A file was opened. Nothing has been done to that case. Of course, my friend Mutunga and my colleague, he's also my very good friend. But I can tell you, sometimes I wonder about him. He behaves like a psychopath because it is good for you to also take things in a serious manner.
Okay.
Anything happens today to the Deputy President, the government of Kenya will be liable.
The former Deputy President?
The former Deputy President. Of course, the elected Deputy President and the second Deputy President of this Republic.
Okay.
If anything happens to him, GOK must be responsible. If anything happens to him today, the government of Kenya will be liable.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it is in the interest of a genuine government to be concerned of such high-profile people. He's a high-profile person. He served in an office that he was the second in that office. It is in the interest of government to protect him, whether in office or even out of office. Actually, our constitution guarantees the right to life.
Okay.
He has been attacked severally. In Shamata, he was attacked. In Limuru, he was attacked. There have been several attempts. In Nyeri, there were attempts. The IG has not said anything about it. It is suspect. Today, I have told you, police were withdrawn. There was a formal request by the church.
Okay.
They knew the Deputy President was coming there. And they withdrew the police, leaving out him exposed. Were it not for the few security people he had and the people in the church. What do I want to tell you? We do not table evidence to Mheshimiwa Mutunga. We table them to the DCI.
At least for purposes
and I have said it was orchestrated by the state. The governor of Nairobi, together with a few agencies, monitored well orchestrated and executed. The aides of the governor were in the church earlier on. And it is good for me to tell you that the Deputy President himself has said the governor of Nairobi organized whatever happened today.
Yes, and so you have intentions of proceeding tomorrow to the DCI to report on this?
Let me tell you, already it is a matter of national interest. The DCI know what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
We have told them what we saw, and it is upon them. And let me tell you, they are about to do so many other things as such, and you will see.
And why are you confident that, reporting this to them would yield any fruits if you're saying that the previous attacks have not been...
They are also genuine officers in those offices.
Okay.
We have a few incompetent. The president only knows incompetent CSS that he doesn't like, but he doesn't know incompetent officers who serves in his office.
Just how incompetent are they? Allow us
to
take a short break. We'll be coming back to that because then we have a whole 1 hour to ponder on the same matter. We take this quick short break, come back with more news and back to the conversation. Don't you go anywhere.